Wholeness, welcome. This is Josh of Inner Skilled, and today I have with me Banya Lim. Banya, how's it going?
Good. How are you, Josh?
Oh, doing good. We spoke a little bit before the show, and Banya's in a beautiful place in Sedona, one of my favorite places. I was going to say Arizona, but I just blew it and said the actual name. But anyway, it's really no surprise, right? Of such a amazing, energetic place, and so. Instead of me giving the intro like I normally do here, who's Banya Lim and what kind of work does she do?
I'm a multi-generation healer and Oriental medicine practitioner and acupuncturist. I learn a lot of healing tools from my mom, being an apprentice to her since the age of 7. And then eventually I developed program for people to achieving their goals by tapping into the body. And also energy coach for relationship and business.
Well, right on. Um, I'm going to ask you to do school me a little bit because I haven't really gotten much into the Meridian system. I just talked to another doctor the other day who's also into acupuncture, and he mentioned the Meridian systems a bit. And so usually I try to go to the bigger level, and then if there's time left over, go down to the narrow. But I'm going to do it differently and just throw something in here for an example. And I had these lumps, a few lumps that have been diagnosed as like fatty tumors, benign fatty tumors. And I asked him about that, and he said, well, according to Western medicine, they're insignificant, right? But if he said in maybe Chinese medicine that they could be on, a lot of times they're on meridian lines, and that he can do like a surrounding the dragon, he called it, I think. So is that your understanding of these? Is there something more universal to these? How common are they? What do you recommend for phenomena like this? Just to kind of use a specific example, maybe just to jump into energy practices in general.
Yeah, if especially any kind of physical stuff like a mole, uh, skin issues, lump, we go into the meridian system where it's actually located. Um, I go into much further as far as a meridian. Meridians are connected to specific organs. This is why we call it long meridians and large intestine meridians, spleen meridians, and so on. And each organ has this very specific connection to emotion. Like lungs has a connection to sadness. Kidneys has a connection to fear. Just by throwing this information, oftentimes my clients remember the time when this and how it started, and there's always a story behind it. Um, Finding out the location of what it is, which meridian there lies, and that's the beginning point. And also, there's a very specific way, a technique to work on lumps and moles. It depends on what it is. And you talked about surrounding the dragon, and also there are many different techniques to work on it. And I work on the skin issue with the oftentimes with the moxa. Moxa is burning this herb on a very specific acupressure points. I even worked on people who had a skin cancer, and they got to avoid skin surgery. I mean, they got to avoid surgeries. I remember one of my clients was a teenager. She had skin cancer on her nose, and the doctor said that they have to cut out like 1/3 of the nose, and we did moxa and acupuncture, and she never had to get surgery.
Amazing. So at risk of me turning this into, a professional consultation, I want to maybe just show off your knowledge and wisdom here. And you know, there is an exposed nerve right here. I don't know if you can see it or not. That's what I've been told it is, an exposed nerve. I don't even know what that means. But moles are fairly common. You know, lots of people have lots of moles even. What do you make of that phenomena as well? Because, you know, they even took a biopsy for this one that I've had most of my life. And of course, it's not cancerous or anything. But I mean, will the mole actually shrink down? I mean, do you consider this normal for some people and abnormal for other people? I know I've had ones that have gotten lighter and almost non-noticeable, and then they will come back to, and how maybe the sun might be involved in this, and you know, the sun is a huge affect on energy, you know, our energy system. And some people tend to respond to it in different ways as well. So, I mean, maybe we can blow it up to the bigger picture of the sun. And, you know, if you want to go beyond that
Yeah.
to galactic things as well.
Yeah. As far as the mole goes, or discoloration of skin, that's not something that I worry about. It's you know when it usually gets bigger and it's cancerous, that's that's when we dive into. As far as a discoloration mole, it's your body's natural way to reacting to environment, diet, and what's going on a physical level. It's just a reaction to what's going on, and we just have to honor what is happening in the body. But on a cosmetic level, if that's bothering you and that's it's something that you do not like, we can work on it. There's a natural way to even removing more without getting surgery.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to tie a mole to the cosmic level. Sorry, I
Yeah,
was, you know, but maybe there is some kind of connection or something. No, I meant like the sun. So the
yeah,
sun, usually some people are absolutely terrified of the sun. And
yeah. I
some people
don't.
go out and worship the sun so much, you know.
Yeah.
So there's this huge spectrum of how people deal with that, you know.
Mhm.
Some people freak out, some people can't get enough sunshine.
Yeah, but
So,
as far as
mm,
you know,
mm.
the science already been proven. There is the discrepancy in the information and research and data. I don't know if you already know that. They're actually saying it is it some said it is not safe, but also there's a lot of data that say it is safe. We people actually have been exposed to sun regularly have a less chance of getting skin cancer, and there's also information out there. And we have been, I know we are as far as ozone layers, all those things that we can talk about it, and it's we probably in a different environment than 100 or 200 years ago, but we thrive in sun, and we are made to thrive in sun, just like the plants and trees and flowers, they need sun. And I absolutely believe that we need sun and we have to expose to it. And I think key here is not fearing it. And I think there's so much information out there to make us fear sun and being exposed to sun. No, go out there. And I believe that we do manifest based on what we believe in, and that those are the information that we just have to just just be cautious of it. And
Yeah, you know, and I totally agree with that. The vitamin D levels, we looked at this during the lockdowns and how a lot of the people that didn't have pre-existing conditions, if they were low in vitamin D levels, they were kind of more likely to get it. I mean, I'm oversimplifying here, but was a direct correlation between vitamin D levels and this as well. And I was, you know, I've only been to Asia really briefly, and I was really surprised at some of the people I thought, you know, would have had lighter skin than me. And I don't mean like in a racist way. It's like there was a walking around like completely terrified of exposing their skin to sun to the point where long clothes, umbrellas and things. And, you know, it is what it is. And of course, same way I see in Denmark where they pump out this information of you have to slather yourself in this sun. Of course, there is a higher correlation, or there's, I think, a significant amount of skin cancer, but I don't know if it can all be attributed to the sun. And I will say the Nordic sun is quite intense, but it's more of an energetic thing, I think, than a skin burning thing, because I was really faint after being out in direct sunlight for an extended period, but I didn't really even get burnt or anything from it when I was in Denmark. So something else is going. I mean, I don't know if it's just, I don't know how far you are into like esoterics and metaphysical things, but there's so many different teachings on the sun from so many different people, so many subtle, complex things going on, and how far we go back in time, and then people that have projected things in the future. So it's not this really simple, straightforward matter either. But I think you put it quite well there. What would you say about an exposed nerve on my nose though, or just have you seen this phenomena too?
Yes, yes, I have. And I like I said, that's something I don't think you should be concerned about. And on a on a treatment level, I often do moxa. Moxa is burning the specific herb on that area, and also we will know this is connected to liver and gallbladder. Liver and gallbladder is connected to anger. It doesn't mean that you're an angry person. There's a kind of underlying energy or memory, a story that just needs to be explored and looked at. And that's
I,
all
I
that.
used to be very angry, by the way, used to be very angry. But when I feel into it, you can just see that it just feels horrible, anger, right? And plus
Yeah,
it doesn't really help me with anything. It usually just makes things worse. Now, I
no,
will say that with the feminine, maybe it's a little bit different because the feminine can really show their power with anger. So that's, it, anyway, it is like a last ditch effort. If someone's in a really bad situation, like an abusive situation, it can be a motivating factor. But as we know, anger is like a double-edged sword, because if I just keep expressing it, then it's like a self-reinforcing thing. Okay, I'm justified to feel angry. This feels good. And then it just becomes kind of habitual. However, if I suppress it unnaturally, then it can bottle up and explode when it's not helpful and can be very harmful and damaging. So yes, it's kind of a last ditch um, fail-safe mechanism, I would say, for people in abusive situations. But otherwise, meditation for me is, back when I was going through that, it's just a good way to let it dissolve. You don't have to suppress it at all. You can really, really feel into the depth of it, and it won't harm me and it won't harm anyone else, because, you know, I'll set aside just feeling it, letting it dissolve and move through instead of suppressing it or acting on it. So yeah, but yeah, it is quite something. It is a defilement for the most part. But
yeah.
yeah, mhm. Yeah,
Going back to what you said about the body, and body holds so just I always say our body is the memory bank of what everything that we have gone through. We might not be remembering every single thing, every single moment, but our bodies hold and store and remember those things. And whatever that we experience in our life, it could triggers the underlying, or when something has been deep within our system. So, as a person who have been working with the bodies all my life, I found that our bodies constantly tell us story. Our bodies constantly tell us even what to do, what is best for us, and what to even avoid at times. And listening to our bodies is the key to ultimately where we want to go. Where we want to go, I believe our place is all the same. It's peace and love. And in order to get to that place, we have to unblock this energy that's within us. And since the energy is blocked by certain specific emotions and thoughts, we just have to just give time to look at those. And what acupuncture does, without talking about all this, going to those specific points to open them up. So we can be able to release those. But what I realized over the years, many of my clients, I really uh, honor my lineage and what I do, and I do very good job in acupuncture. So people get better, and sometimes people come back with the same symptoms. And what I've learned is that the reason is that they go back to same lifestyle, same relationship, same situation, same work environment, same surrounding. So they end up creating their blockages again, and that's why they keep coming back. So in the beginning, it was quite frustrating. And I realized unless we go to the root of the issue and be able to talk about it and open them up, they're going to be keep doing this cycle. And this is how my chi mastery system, I'm sorry, my program came about, and dealing with and talking about how important it is to delving into the body and see what that is actually, and going to the root, like as a root of the issue, because our body's constantly telling us the story, based on that. In Oriental medicine, we work through two basic theories: yin and yang theories and five element theories. Yin and yang is one cannot exist without the other. Like if there's a darkness, there has to be light. If there is up, there has to be down. If there's a left side, there has to be right side. And five element, there's based on five element. Five element applies to everything that occurs in our lives: colors, directions, organs, emotion, like wood, fire, earth, water, metal. And wood's organ is liver and gallbladder, and its direction is east side, east side. So people, one good example, people who have liver and gallbladder issue, their east side of the house is always messy. So when you simply clean that side of the house, your liver and gallbladder will improve. And I saw that so many times in my life. Of course, just cleaning the whole house is always good for the whole body and whole system. And the liver and gallbladder is connected to wood. Its color is green. I don't know if you experience, I'm sure everyone experienced, like when you wake up in the morning, you don't know why, but you get drawn to this specific color of a shirt or pants, because you unconsciously, you intuitively know that that will be the most harmonizing color for you to wear that particular day. And you just follow that, and you just follow that, and just everything becomes a fluid when you just let your intuition and instinct just let you follow and let your body to just guide you. And I really think that listening to our bodies is culture that have been lost in us. And we are starting to find that. But we haven't taught, even as a young, no one taught us to listen to your body. We've always been taught to listen to your teacher, listen to your father or mother, whatever that might be. Listening to our bodies is the starting point of honoring who we are, honoring the soul that's within us, because our soul constantly talk to us through our body's indicator, feelings, sensations, and everything else.
This is really a really good point. Used to have a co-host a few years ago mentioning body talk. And yeah, it's especially for those of us who think more in words and talking instead of images, which not a lot of us do that, but I'm one of those. I think primarily, so it is really important. And the body keeps the score is a classic saying that's thrown around. And this notion, and I'm glad you brought up the liver gallbladder, because I'm wondering if that is, I have an energetic blockage in my right side on the ear and nose, and it will block up every once in a while and then unblock. Usually when I lay on the left side, it will unblock then. And I don't know if it's extra heat that causes it, but I haven't really nailed it down. So it might need to go to a practitioner to know about this. It's gotten better over the years because sometimes it was blocked most all the time, and I don't know if it's inflammation or something because, yeah, it
Well,
just closes up and I can't breathe through it. Yeah.
one thing that I want to share with you, this is so simple in many ways. Based on Oriental medicine, and I noticed this with many of my clients, people tend to have like consistently things occurring one side of the body. It could be like right side of a headache, right shoulder, right right leg, right hip, or it could be just one side. If it's something happens considering only one side of the body, and there is definitely has a relationship with our primary care as when we're a child. What I mean is that your left side is more connected to feminine energy based on yin and yang theory. So left side is yin and right side is yang. Right side is just the masculine energy. And if something occurs consistently, not always, but it's just something to look into your primary care relationship, which is right side will be father, left side will be mother. And just by me throwing this information to my clients, there's always something come up with the people.
No, that's really helpful. And I knew that that was the thing. But of course, and my fiance does a lot of inner child work too and reparenting. And yeah, it's hugely important in her practices and healing and just the way she goes about the world. So thank you for that. I appreciate that because at one point I went into a spiritual shop and some guy just came up, one of the healers there. He said, "Oh, you have a lot of animosity or uh, what was the right word? Basically, something where I didn't like my dad on my right shoulder, and I started shaking. I was like, "Oh, thank you." So I immediately knew there was something to it just by the response in my voice. And in fact, that's when I started yoga, and I found out that I couldn't even raise my right arm all the way up because it was too painful. But I went and I took a look at that in meditation and absolutely resentment. That's the word he used. A lot of resentment towards my father. And there was a huge release in weeping. And then the shoulder, I could then, it wasn't much longer than that. Then I could just release it the whole way, or extend it the entire way. So yeah, I can attest to that in my own experience for sure. So I have to go back and look deeper at this then as well. So thank you for that. The memory, I think just about everybody that's into kind of spirituality and things is just why can't we remember more, especially when we go into past lives, how there's very few people that come into this. I've heard all kinds of different new age explanations, like we made an agreement to forget in order to da, 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 da. But there's also people that don't, they come in with kind of a full memory. We see these savants, which they probably classify as some kind of disorder or something, where they can't forget anything. Like you could say, what did you eat for lunch, 20 years ago, 5 months, 3 days, and they could tell you exactly.
Mm.
And then,
There
mhm,
are also people who are start recovering past life memories, have a
exactly,
very
that's the other one.
difficult time
Yeah.
incorporating into this current life.
Yes.
So I think it takes time for us to, there's reason behind that we don't remember. And I think this was our choice. At least that's what I believe in.
Mm. I don't know. I see that as one I keep it open until I can see it and know it for myself. So
Hmm.
I have so many different possibilities. That's one of them. Another one is that we were forced by unseen forces to be wiped, basically. So we don't remember to take our power away. So we're easily controlled and manipulated as well. So I think trauma is a huge thing as well. We know that in traumatic situations with even just coming into a human form is quite traumatic. I don't think anybody doesn't, as a human, doesn't have some kind of trauma, and then it can get really severe from there too. very severe. And so one of the, I think, defense mechanisms in traumatic situations is forgetting. But then I also practice with people who are really deep meditation practitioners, and they're going in through their practice and recalling back to the moment of conception, and then the moment before that was the death moment of the previous life, and they can keep tracing back and back. And so in very um yeah, just kind of everyday thing, like they're remembering their past lives because it's part of the practice that they're doing to discern all these different things of ultimate materiality, ultimate mentality. But anyway, so I was just wondering, so you're feeling right now, or you say it's a belief too, that we agreed to that, and then
Yeah.
what would be the purpose of that, I guess?
Well, interesting. And I want to just briefly talk about past life regression because I do past life regression a while. The reason was that about, I don't know, 20 or some years ago, my client was receiving acupuncture, and she had like this spontaneous past life regression while getting acupuncture. Of course, that's not what I was planning, and that's not what I was doing at the time. But one of the specific points trigger the memory, and she wasn't kind of person into any of this kind of stuff, and she said like, I am seeing this and this thing, and it was something to do with her relationship. Current husband right now was different relationship in the past life, and she saw the correlation and what exactly happened, why she has this relationship with the husband right now. And it was a it was a big relief for her to just be able to see what happened and why she had such a difficult relationship currently. And she had specific point on her shoulder and the scapula area, and she actually tried everything. And actually she was quite, she had a lot of money, so she tried pretty much every therapy that's out there. And she tried that for more than 10 years. After that session, that pain went away. And I feel like I haven't really done anything except that just check her pulse and figuring out what the point is. And just by her visiting her past, that past disappeared, the pain disappeared. And that was the beginning of my exploration of a past life, and Dolores Cannon and few other teachers, um, West
Journey of Journey of Souls.
Journey of
Trying
Soul.
Michael Newton is a really common one. I've read that, but I have a lot of questions about that too. But what you're describing there is quite common in these circles. Even though I don't hear that a lot, where she's not even into that and just spontaneous. I have heard of these things too, though. But
Right.
yes, this insight that I mean, I just illustrated an insight, but it's in this life. So in a way, that was an insight she had that it offered immediate resolution, I guess you can call it,
So,
of
so
yeah,
already I
mhm,
told you about our body holds memory, but I think our bodies also holds memory of even past lives
oh totally,
that's
I
within
see.
us. And I mean, my mom kind of talked about it because she's my teacher, she's my first guru and everything. But that was like my like real experience with my client without me planning or with
Exactly.
going trying to go to that direction.
Yeah, I attest to that with my fiance, who's highly clairvoyant, and she's the physical ailments. She's has vivid past life memories of what has been caused with that. So the downside to this, it's not all unicorns and rainbows. Sometimes people have died, and I guess we all have, if we could remember far enough back, died very tragic deaths. And
Hmm.
so, depending on it could be very healing to have some of these memories come up and explain things and release things in the current life. However, for some, they can also be re-traumatizing. And I've met some people where they're not properly integrating past life memories either. They'll be stuck and fixated on a previous life, and they have challenges, I guess, integrating it or making sense of it into this life. And so yeah, so I'm sure you've heard of this phenomena too. Go
Right.
ahead.
I absolutely believe that there's a way to work through that, even heal that. And this is why it's guided by right healers and practitioners is important, just like anything else. When you're really under subconscious level, we are open to everything that's out there because our consciousness like iceberg just right there. But sometimes even in acupuncture, you can go under here to access all this. And people who are in tune with that, there's a way to guide a person to release whatever the trauma or blockages that's within them. But you and the practitioner and the client have to go under there together. And also with the right facilitator, you can be able to work through that. I absolutely believe that you can.
Oh, totally. And I can verify that too. It also goes into another challenge though here too as well. And yes, ideally that's what really has to be done is to do that. And so the next thing is when we are accessing that, how important discernment is. As you know, we are open to everything. And there are beings in the unseen, according to a lot of people who don't have our best intentions at heart too, who are opportunists and that they're beyond our level and who use deception and deceit. Like we experience so much the kind of deception and deceit in our everyday world. It's pretty amazing the extent of it if we really start looking. And so that's another thing that's key because I mean it's going to sound really woo-woo and far out there, but there's different. I've heard reports of different technologies, different beings coming, cloaking and disguising themselves as something they're actually not. If just different insertions, false memories and things, although that can be abused too. That's a whole nother can of worms of how what people say are false memories might not actually be false memories. So this is why discernment is so important. And and like you said earlier, the body is a really helpful thing a lot of times because the mind has no shame and can come
Mm-hmm.
up with all kinds of unskillful things as well, but also can have very sharp, bright wisdom. But the body, yes, it can be deceived and it can be off, but I think it's a better gauge of what's really going on than a lot of things, especially in an untrained mind, for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. And also I think setting intention is very important and good when you wake up in the morning or before your meditation. It just makes a huge difference when you really set the intention and setting the tone for the day and setting the tone for the meditation. And and also at the same time clear us up any heavy or negative energy to affect you in any way.
I totally agree. That's what karma is intentionality, right? So when we even think, speak, and act with intention, it will have consequences, right? If they're skillful intentions with skillful thinking, speaking, and acting, well, then the outcome result tends to be more skillful, and vice versa too. So yeah, these are they while it will have consequences, well, it could have very skillful consequences that are for our benefit and for the benefit of others, and ideally, uh, especially in the long term, because
Mhm.
like you mentioned earlier, some of these short-term things they tend to turn out to be more short-term until the root or the deeper level is accessed and addressed. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
wonder, do you so getting I don't know, I can't remember now, did you give your kind of thoughts on why you think so many people forget or have a hard time accessing this, through just regular everyday life, that they have to go through past life regressions in order to access these memories. And once people do go into these modalities, it seems fairly common that people have these experiences. But why is it so? Why do we forget so much? You think?
I think as we raise our vibration, as we self actualize and know who we are, that memories naturally come back. But I think before raising our vibration, when those things happen, I think it really interferes with our current life. And I can clearly see that it can be interference when you're not aware of who you truly are. So this is why, you know, as we awaken and as we evolve, those memories naturally come to us. Um, and at the same time, and when it gets interfere, it can be quite confusing. And I believe that we will all remember who we are. And I really believe that we are headed that direction. And I notice more and more people remembering who they are, who they used, who they were in the past life, and everything. Because as far as the time goes, as you know, it's an illusion, right? It's not past, present, and future, but everything's happening here at the moment of right now. As we increase our vibration, this kind of disc of a what we know as a past, present, and linear time, where we're compacted in the moment of right now. And that's what the meditation does, right? By being present, we can presently observe and know as who we are as a whole.
It's a beautiful way to put it, and it doesn't matter so much as if there is or isn't a past, present, future. It may as well not be, because it is all accessible from the here and now, right?
Mhm.
There is at least let's see, memories of the past, or who knows how long. The historical Buddha said he couldn't discern a discernible beginning or end, so that puts a lot of metaphysical questions to rest right there. If there's no discernible beginning or end, the other thing is that, the future are just their projected futures, right? What people can see into the future, those who can, it's not set in stone yet, right? It's malleable depending on causes and conditions and circumstances, from my understanding. But yeah, so it may as well just be an illusion too, if it's all accessible from the here and now, because at the end of the day, what's in the past, what's in the future, is just a thought in the mind now. It's
Mhm.
happening in the mind now. So the other thing is, it's a really good explanation you gave there of why we forget, because we just basically, if I had to simplify that, it's just people aren't ready for it. They're not equipped to deal with the ramifications of it. So it's like kind of a safety mechanism of not opening up to everything that's too
And at
overwhelming.
the same time, you can
Mm.
access it if you need to or if you want, because it's
Exactly, that's right. And do it in the past life regression, regardless if you're ready for it or not. There's skilled practitioners that can do that. And I would agree too, when people are ready, then they will come naturally. I guess then the question becomes too, I don't want to be like a 5-year-old, but why? But why? But what, so the next one is, well, why are we so dumbed down though? Why do most people not have that capacity from the get-go? And so I don't know. I don't know if you want to humor me or not by taking a shot at that one. Like,
why are we so dumbed down? Why don't
yeah,
we
dumbed down. And why don't we have the capacity normally, most of us, from we're born, to start remembering and integrating right away? Which, by the way, I think a lot of children do have these natural abilities until they're
right,
taught that they're not socially acceptable either. I mean,
right.
I could verify this in my own family,
Mm.
the little ones, but not my immediate family, but extended family. Yeah. So
I think
yeah.
a lot of to do with the karma. In order for us to work through our karma, we have to be in a duality and we have to experience contrast. And in order to experience contrast, sometimes we have to be in a lower vibration. And when you're in lower vibration, it's harder to access all those information. But also at the same time, this is where our like work and the boots happens. We get to fight with our mates, whatever they might be. But in order to work through the karma, sometimes we have to be in a lower consciousness or vibration, and that's when we experience contrast. And through contrast, think we realize who we truly are. Through contrast, we know what we want. When you are poor all the time, you wanna be rich. You want to experience something contrast to that. When you're miserable, your desire for light gets stronger. And where in the world that you can think of, you can experience the contrast the most, it's actually on Earth. We chose to come here. I think we often forget that we volunteer. We chose out of all this, like we decided to come here. We wanted so badly to come here. I think we forget that, to experience this drama. And we love drama, believe it or not.
I would say maybe some of us have. Like, I'm not at that level to say, that's the way it is. I can see and know this for myself. But that is one possibility. I think maybe we're here for lots of different reasons. But I will say yes, the karma is because, and then what that points to for me next is that is our thinking, our speech, and our actions that have consequences, So
Oh, yeah.
if we were more ethically attuned, which to me it all comes down to non-harming, that's what ethics are based on. And because of I could just see it in my own lifetime here, how appalling, and I didn't even realize it, I didn't think there was anything wrong with my behavior, or not wrong, you know what I mean? But like just so completely unconscious of how I was treating myself and others until I started to wake up, and wow, how painful. And I love this word contrast because it's a good word to like opposition and polarity, which is, these things we experience too, and we can make the most of these things, right? Until we grow past them, and we don't need, hopefully we won't need polarity as a learning lesson anymore. We'll have the wisdom where we don't have to go to extremes in order to have a reference point. You know what I mean? But yeah, while we're still in it and still learning from it and resolving karma as you say it, then yeah, this contrast can help us have these reference points to know the opposite, so we can know the other side too. But eventually, I think we'll move on from that. We won't have to have such extreme. Well, maybe it's not extreme, but such learning mechanisms. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Thanks.
I think it just comes from it's a coin, like front and back, right? Yin and yang. It's all of it. And eventually we can be able to embrace all of it without judging. You staying here and to judging this, you staying here judging this, be able to embrace all and seeing as um already we know that what we consider as a bad 100 years ago, it's not bad. What we consider good, it's not. Why does it change? It's all based on the perception, right? And I believe eventually we can be able to embrace it all. By going back to the body, how body remembers and knows and aware and have intuitive telling us, and be able to understand how what we consider negative thoughts and thoughts and emotions affecting our body, even not just words and how we treat ourselves. What about the thoughts throughout the day? How many negative thoughts we have about ourselves? It could be, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, whatever that might be. And as we know, we're 80% or more consists of water, and how they're based on Dr. Emoto's water crystal experiment, that it literally changes the structure of the water crystal based on just saying things to the water, and affecting our body based on this contrast. We can be able to see how the water crystal and energy that changes, mutates within our system.
It's a really good point. It's just there's some confusion, I think, for some people because you for one thing you said embrace it all. There's no good or bad, but then you also illustrated how the positive is usually more helpful than the negative, right? So there's a little bit of a cognitive dissonance or disconnect, I think, somewhat there. So I like to take it from yes, on an ultimate level, there's really no good or bad, so to speak, but we're so far from the ultimate level. To me, and yeah, it's walking this line of not being judgmental, but seeing this, if I'm not getting satisfaction from judging someone, that's being judgmental, right? That's not helpful. But if I see it, I say, oh no, I don't want to judge. I don't want to judge. Well, to me, one of these teachings I like is, well, that's just a recognition of the other person's maybe divinity or Buddha nature. And it's just a recognition, oh, that's just not for me right now. It's not that I'm putting that person down to lift myself up and feel better. It's kind of a recognition, I see your way and that's okay, but that's just not for me. And that's one way I like it. And the other thing is skillfulness, because we all can recognize, and it's not a value judgment to be skillful or unskillful, right? Be wise or unwise, wholesome or unwholesome, helpful or unhelpful. And so again, this is where the teachings of intentionality and karma, I think, because skillful actions tend to have skillful results, and wise actions and associating with wise people tend to have more of a wise outcome than foolish people. And it's not necessarily a value judgment. It's just like, okay, this is cause and effect. And so that's the way I look at it. And then in wholesomeness too. And so I will say though that it doesn't really matter if harm is right or wrong. It's just not helpful. Abuse is never okay. So and if it's helping us say, okay, if anyone's in an abusive situation, get out of that situation. Do everything you can to get out of an abusive situation, not just say, oh, I'm just going to accept it. Maybe they'll change. Maybe they'll become a better person. Maybe I'm not just being kind enough to them. You know what I mean? So yeah, in a way, I see that, and yeah, and I have to keep myself in check and not be all high and mighty and righteous, because that's not helpful either. But to me, there's I know when I'm being harmed, right? And
Mhm.
it's not helpful to be harmed or to harm another, and it has huge energetic consequences for all of us, especially in the long term. So to me, it's about a strong commitment to truth. It doesn't matter how much I want something to be some way.
Mhm.
That's we can be aspirational like that, and that's very helpful. But to me, to delude myself and to say something is not the way it is not helpful for me. So, but it needs to be done in the right way. It needs to be balanced with non-harming and kindness too, because I can't just go around dropping truth bombs because that could be harmful in itself too. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. And yeah, how do you how do you view it in light of that? You
Well, I
know?
think
Mhm.
everything starts from within us, right? We cannot, or we should never try to control outside and others. And when it's based on our reaction is something that we can work through and work on. And I think there's a lot of reaction within us that might not feel good or feeling good or judgmental, whatever it is, and ultimately accepting who we are as a whole and seeing the wholeness within us. Because when we see the wholeness within us, we can naturally see the wholeness in others. As soon as we can see the wholeness within us, we can see the wholeness in the nature. So it all starts from there, here. And I think very first thing to look at is like where is your awareness? Is it here? Is it outside? Because I think most of us are lost outside and focus on our side, and energy goes where your mind goes, and we literally lose energy all the time because our mind energy focuses outside and we lose energy. When we bring the focus within us, awareness within us, we gain energy. There's actually actual energetical acupressure point within the body. You can gather energy. It's called dantian or ki high, like right below the belly button. It's actually the second chakra area. You can actually gather energy there. More you gather and focus on there and that energy spot, you can gather energy. And we are all lost in outside, and we look for things outside, and we wait for things to change outside. Like, only if I get this, only if you change, only if I get this much, only this happen, then I'll be happy and I'll be peaceful. But it's the other way around, right? When we find peace, when we fulfill, external stuff start to change. Because outside, the world has to match what's happening within us. So all starts from within us. When we get to embrace who we are as a whole, why even based on what a judgment about ourselves as good and bad. It doesn't mean that we should be a doormat to others. We shouldn't actually abuse even ourselves. Being able to understand and forgive completely and be able to embrace that and find the source within us, then outside matches it.
Yeah, it's a really good reminder. Thank you for that. And I can attest to this in my own life too, how when I went within and started looking at things inside and practicing and doing internal work, then of course my outside changed. You would just say it that way. And if it didn't, then it was the way I was viewing it and responding to it. Because those are the things we do have a choice in, right? We can't really control what happens in our external environment all the time, but what we can do is how we view it and how we respond to it, and that includes not responding to it. Same way with, like you said earlier too, what we pay attention to and how we pay attention. And yes, wow, I couldn't agree more on how, especially in the West, we're conditioned to everything's external. There's not even mention of that there's an internal world, really. So it's just completely not even on the radar of most Westerners, I would say. I mean, things are changing, though. I would say it's compared to when I was coming up, in a small rural Midwestern town. We're just so habitually taught and conditioned that that's all there is this 3D external world. And it's really a tragedy in a way. However, like you're saying earlier, we can use that to our advantage of wow, there's so much more. What a delusion, wow, we really fell for that. And it can be devastating at first, at least it was for me, but then a whole new vistas opened up and how amazing it could be. So Banya, I think that this was a really good talk. I enjoyed this and hearing your perspectives, and just the balance of your energy is just so amazing. How well balanced it is. With kind of the tranquilizing factors, but there's this deep wellspring I feel of subtle energy that's really strong too, and it seems really balanced. I appreciate in the things you're doing. You didn't really even get into, maybe before we go and before you start wrapping up, tell us more about the uniqueness you bring to your modalities in your work, and in particular, and how it goes beyond just acupuncture and regular Eastern medicine too.
Simply, whatever we're looking for, I'm going to put it in a very simple way. It could be health, have healthy body, healthy mind, or being successful in my business. I want to create a $20 billion in my life. I don't care what it is. If they have a goal, if you feel like you're not reaching that goal, the blockages within the body, energetical blockages there. And that's where we'll delve into. And there is a way to access that, be able to work through it so you can reach whatever the goal you set out to reach in your life.
Well, very cool. So, how do people get in touch with you? What kind of, do you have any, I don't know, groups or seminars or books, anything else you want to promote, anything at all you want to mention? And then what kind of message would you like to leave with the listeners and viewers that I did?
You can just go to my website. It's my name, banyalim.com. But for your audience, Josh, I will offer free clarity session for anybody who would like to check it out, and they can sign up by going to my website.
Well, very cool. And it's just your name.com, basically, yeah?
Banyalim.com.
Okay, and I'll just spell that for just people that are just that don't know how to spell it and that are just listening. So BanyaLim.com. All right. Thanks again for joining, and may all beings everywhere realize awakening and be free. Bye.
Thank you.